Hi, welcome to BSwiftArt. I'm Barbara Swift, and we're doing a little holiday ornament painting today. I'm starting out with just a couple little cups just so that I can make a little circle. And I'm just placing them here and there. I don't want them to line straight up and down. I want them to overlap a little bit. We're going to do 5 ornaments, and I'm going to add a little fancy doodad right there. So I don't want to cover that up, so when I'm drawing my little circles here, kind of keeping that in mind. I'm going to put one more right here near the bottom. When I was young, we had all these really pretty ornaments from Germany. So my grandparents were from Germany, and I see they remake them now in the stores, which I love those ones. I was fascinated by them when I was a little kid. So I'm just going to kind of sketch a little top for it here, and just kind of drawing it out very simply. Just a little gold little tops that go on there, and I have some gold Posca markers that I'm going to use. They have like a metallic. And then I got another one too that's more like a really shiny deco colors, they're called. I might use those to draw those little gold tops on there. So I'm just putting the main ornament. You can see I drew those little top and bottom. They kind of are, bulge out and go in and bulge out like an hourglass. And in the center here, I'm just putting in some paint and wiping some out to kind of give that foiled effect. It's almost like a starburst. So on this ornament here, I'm just getting it wet first. So we'll do the wet on wet technique. Get it as even as I can. And then I'm just going to start dropping in some color and spread it all around, leaving just a few areas where it'll be a real soft highlight where I'm not going to paint. So I want a very soft edge. Almost like it's satin. So I don't want to make a hard-edged highlight. So the paint will still move wherever the water is, so it's still going to keep moving forward a little bit. I'm going to come back in with a little bit of a darker green and make it look more curved and avoiding those soft white spots. And I'm going to do the same thing up here. So after we're done painting the base, my plan is that I'm going to take the Posca markers and draw the designs on the ornament. So I'm just trying to create kind of like a satiny looking background for the designs. So we'll do the wet on wet technique here. And then I'm going to come in with some kind of rosy red color. This is rose madder. And the same thing, I'm leaving those little soft highlights, trying not to paint over them. It kind of makes it look like it has a curve, so it has some shine since the bulbs are round. You want them to look round. Doing my best to follow my little pencil lines here. And I'm using the Saunders watercolor paper, and it's 140 pounds. I have it sitting on top of another little tablet here. And here I'm just kind of wiping out those highlights. So they got a little paint started to move on them a little more than I wanted to, so wipe it out. And to wipe out, all you do is rinse out your brush, dry it off as best you can, and then use it like a mop. And just put it where you want the paint to soak up into the brush, and then rinse it out and dry it off again, and then you can repeat it. And I'm coming back with a red now, just to kind of darken up some of those areas that would be a little bit more shaded. So now I'm trying to wipe back out that highlight, but it's pretty wet, so the paint keeps going right back there. So I'm just going to keep watching it and make sure I leave some of the highlight there as it dries. Keep wiping it back out. And we'll do the same thing over here on this bulb. So I have one really fancy bulb that's going to be like the focal point, and I'm going to do some mistletoe on the tops of the bulbs. My grandma used to always hang mistletoe in the doorway. Right when you walked into her family room, she had the mistletoe there and the bulbs hanging, and they played music. So they looked like that center one there. And it played music, and they kind of went up and down. It was really cool. So this one I'm doing a little turquoisey one. Trying not to cover up my little highlight there. And just spreading the paint around. And then I'll come back in with a little bit of a darker blue there to put a little bit towards the bottom and around the side just a little bit, kind of leaving the curves lighter. And just straightening up my edges. And now that center that I started to paint is nice and dry. So I'm going to go ahead and do the wet on wet effect. Same thing like we did the other 3 bulbs on this center one. But when I did the center on this, I did it wet on wet, but I kind of streaked through a couple shades of blue. You can see I went, lighter on one side of it. And then I came back and I mopped out like a starburst in there. It's kind of like a foily indent in there that's kind of got a crinkle effect. So I'm going to come down here and do the same thing on this whole portion of the bulb. And I'm going to bring my purple in. And I'm going to paint just like we did the other ones. Trying to leave some highlights in there around the top. And combing around. Leave that highlight. There we go. Leave it darker on the one side. I'm sorry I cut off the top of the frame here, didn't I? But that's just that little hourglass little shape on the top of the bulb, and I'm leaving the little highlights in there as well, so you'll see that after I move my paper down a little bit. So I made a little 5-card combo pack of some greeting cards, or Christmas greeting cards. So this is going to be one of them. So I sell all my cards and things at little craft shows that I do during the week, little boutique shows. So the cards have been real popular for me, so I really enjoy making them. So all my paintings, I take a really nice image of them and then I print them onto blank cards, and I sell cards and I sell prints, and then about once a month I'll go to one of the larger art fairs and I'll sell my originals there. So, or on my website. People can always buy them off of my website, which is BSwiftArt.com if you're interested. And we also do merchandise with my paintings on t-shirts and tote bags and all kinds of fun products. So I'm coming back with a second layer of that same purple because I wanted it to look real purple and not more blue, because this is kind of a bluish purple. So I'm going to just come back in, see how dark that is. And this part dried a little bit too much for me, and you can see I've got a hard line now with that where my highlight is. I wanted it to be softer. So I'm going to have to kind of soften that out a little bit with a wet brush. I might wait till the end, because if I do it too soon, I'll get a bloom right there. And I don't really want a bloom, so I have to be careful about that. So I'm just going up on the top there where you can't see it. I apologize. And I'm just making that little dark and leaving the highlights in. Get a little contour. And the same thing right here. You can see what I'm doing. And just, that's going to be darker right in there because it really curves in there. And I'm going to blend that. Try to even it out as best I can. I'll have another opportunity with the markers. And then I'm going to bring that down. And then this one, I had to let that pink and red one dry really well because there's one behind it. And if I would put all that water on there and the other one was still wet, then they would just blend together. So this one's going to be kind of a gold color. So I'm using a deep yellow to start out with. And just the same technique, wet on wet. And I'm coming back with a little bit more intense of that gold yellow there. I just kind of want to make it look golden, like a golden sphere. Okay. There, so now you can see all those little highlights. They look very satiny, and those little highlights help that satin effect. So let it dry very well. And now I'm going to start with my mistletoe. So I'm just going to do brush strokes, simple brush strokes, touch lightly with the tip of the brush, and push down, and then bring it up. You can always do 2 strokes, one on either side. And I'm going to do different colors of green in here. So I'm just starting out with this olive green. I'm just seeing, kind of want to do these little clusters of mistletoe. And I don't want to cover up my little golden cap either. So I'm going to be careful to avoid that. A little cap on the bulb. And I don't want the whole background to be mistletoe. I want it to look like little clusters that might be hanging amongst the bulbs. So this one will cover up that little bit so that it looks like it's realistic, where some would come in front and some would be in the background. And just paint my little cluster of leaves there. And put one right in here. Now all of the ornaments that I painted previously dried very well, because otherwise these leaves would bleed right into the ornaments, so I didn't want that. I want them to stay very separate in this case. Sometimes when I'm doing florals, I like those bleeds. That makes it look, like a shadow and adds more color and reflection, but here I don't want to do that. And I want to leave some white spaces. I don't want it all to be solid. So I really want the ornaments to stand out. So here I'm going to come back with another color, So this is kind of a grayish blue. So I'm using Magellan Mission Gold colors. And this one that I'm using is called Prussian Blue. And prior to that, that was the olive green. Put some Prussian Blue in there. And it's pretty watered down. It's kind of a skim milk consistency. Because I like it to be very transparent so the leaves underneath show up too. And as I'm doing this, I'm kind of watching that it doesn't make a square. I want to, have nice full little bunches. So I'm coming out, a little bit more on the sides. Bringing it down to the bottom. And kind of filling them out. So I have 5 bulbs, and I also have 5 clusters of mistletoe in different sizes. So I have smaller clusters, bigger clusters, the same with the bulbs. And then now I'm coming back in with hooker's green. And I'm coming in and putting in some more leaves, overlapping them a little bit here and there. And you can see the olive green looks very yellowish compared to the hooker's green, which hooker's green has a lot of yellow in it too. Just filling that in. Loving how the layers will, how they layer and how the transparent colors shine the colors from underneath through. I'm filling in those spots. And I want to remember that I also am going to have little mistletoe berries in here too. So I don't want to make it too solid. And I'm going to come on over in the middle section and overlap a few leaves here and there. Some that are tucked in behind the ornament. And watching the shape as I add these leaves. Watching the shape of my little clusters. I don't want to add a bunch of branches in these. I just kind of want to give that effect that they're there. So I'm keeping it kind of airy looking. And then finally I'm coming in with some sap green, which is kind of close to hooker's green, except the sap green can be a little bit deeper. Depends on the saturation. So it's a little thicker. That's how I got these colors in here. Still watching this shape as I'm adding all of these leaves. Just keep adding. Some darker, some lighter. In different directions, so they're not all going in the same direction. Some are flipping out to the side, some are going up and down. Let me know in the comments if you're painting along with me. I'd even love to see a picture of it. If you could send a picture to me, that'd be great. Any feedback that you have for me is greatly appreciated. I haven't been doing this for too long, so I'm just keep trying to improve. Slowly but surely, I guess. I decided to go ahead with that Watercolor metallic gold marker here. Paint pen. It's a paint pen. Give a little bit of shimmer to it. And I'm just filling in those little tops there, and I'm doing like little lines in there. You know how they kind of crinkle a little bit? Almost like a little foil cap. And I'm going to get my Posca markers out. And around this opening is a little tiny edge of snow. So I'm going to draw that in. So don't have to stay round. In fact, I want it to be a little bit wavy because of it's like a applied snow effect right around the opening, little edge of this. So I'm going a little bit wavy. Some areas will be thicker, some are thinner. And right in the center is a little bit of a snow too. And then I'm just going to come and do that little starburst. I'm doing it a bit randomly. Just drawing the straight lines out from that center circle. And as I'm going around, I'm making sure that I don't go too far to one side or the other. Trying to keep it very even. And the one side I have a little bit lighter when I painted it, and that's just the highlight that's in there. Yeah. And then I'm going to draw the little grooves in the bottom here. Like that. And now I'm going to try to draw these little designs, like little leaves and a berry. So they're flocked like in the white paint. I'm just going to draw a band of these little leaves going across the center of the bulb. You can see I'm turning my paper as I go. So I'm turning it to make the angle right for me to draw. Nothing wrong with that. And I'm giving it just a bit of a slight curve. As I'm drawing these leaves across, I'm just going to give it a little bit of a curve so it looks rounded. And some of them, you know, where I would bend around the edge isn't a full leaf. So we'll draw that in there too. And try to kind of even them out a bit more. So these would be hand painted. There's a little town in Germany. I forget what it's called now. I used to know. But they make all these little glass ornaments. And they have a Christmas festival. And everybody goes there and watches the glass blowers. And they paint ornaments. And it's a quaint little village kind of scene. I've never been there, but I've only seen pictures of it. But I look at these old ornaments and I think, yeah, that's probably where they were made. They send them all over the world. So these paint markers from Posca, you have to pump the tip. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to get them going. So you pump the tip and the paint comes out. And the tip is like a very hard nylon. this one, I'm going to do the little snowflakes, which are just a little starburst with the little dots on the ends and around the inside. And then some of them will be bigger, some will be smaller, so the bigger ones will have more detail in them. So just start out with like an X, keep adding my lines, even out my ends, and then I'm drawing little like stickman legs. Some go in, some go out towards the outside. And then go ahead and draw the little dots. And as you're drawing the little dots, that's how you can even things up. So you put the dot in a little further or out a little bit. So you have a little bit of wiggle room, and that makes everything look more even and round. So I'm looking at that as I go around. So then I want another little small one. Draw my little dots and make it a nice round circle. And the same for the inside. It's fun to make your own cards. You can buy watercolor paper cards that are blank at the craft store by Strathmore. And those are pretty fun to paint on. They come with the envelopes usually. And you can make all your own cards that way. Just drawing another snowflake down here, just part of a snowflake as it's coming around the edge here. And a couple little small ones. And just parts of them peeking around here. And on this one, I'm drawing some little curlicues. Trying to think about the way it'll go. Keep going around. There we go. And think about how it would come off of and around the bulb. And portion of it. And then I'm going to come back with my green and put some leaves on those little curlicues. So these markers come in all kinds of colors and different thicknesses. So these are the finer ones. So it is a 0.7 millimeter. That's the small ones. And they come in like big chisel tips too. Just putting some fun little green leaves on all of them. And then I'm going to put some little dots. This would also be fun to paint with some of the glitter watercolor paints or glitter markers. For my purposes, because I'm making it into a card, when I take a picture of it and then I print it, you don't see any of that glitter effect. So I'm not going to bother doing it for the cards. But if I were doing the painting to sell somebody, that would be really pretty. So now that white's all dry, I'm coming back with some red, and I'm making some little berries in between my leaves. And I'm just going to tip each leaf with just a little tiny red dot. And this helps to even things out again, like I said, with the snowflakes. So I'm coming around. Sometimes I'm going in a little bit. Sometimes I go out a little bit. Just depends where it kind of needs fixing a little. Put little white dots in the center of each one of those. And then a line of little white dots on either side. So I'm just pushing the pen down a little bit. So I'm not really making a circle. I'm just using the shape of the tip of the pen to make these dots. And why not put another row? Has room to be filled in a little bit. There we go. And then I'm going to do some stripes on this one. So I'm trying to kind of get my motion going here. So I think maybe I should draw a couple with the pencil. See how it looks, because I can always erase that. And I want to curve them to go with the shape of the ornament. See, I erased it and the paint stayed on there. I'm just doing light lines, kind of thinking about them curving around the bulb and how that would look on the edges. So I'm going to do green and red. So I'm going to do every other one green. And then the red in between. And then some little white dots too. So now I'm thinking about what are these bulbs hanging from. So I'm going to have them hanging from a little piece of red string. I'm going to take my ruler and carefully draw my red, and it got on my ruler, so I got to wipe that off because I'm afraid if I do it on the next one it'll print that red. So there's my red, and I keep wiping it off. Trying to keep parallel with the edge of the paper and with the ones that are already drawn on there. I kind of just do it by eye. And then this one here, I guess it has to go either in front of or behind the bulb that's above it. So I'm going to let it go behind and see how that looks. There we go. I think that's good. And I'll draw some little bows where the string's been tied. I'll do 3 little loops, big loops, and then the little ends. There we go. I'll do that on all of them. And I'll let those little bows go behind since that bulb looks like it's behind and that purple one's forward. And a little knot in the center. Moving the paper to where I can best get the best angle. These are just little fine little tinsel bows. And when I do those little ends, I'm doing a little bit of a curve to them just for fun. There. Did that one on top of the bulb behind it, see? And now I'm going to take my white and draw in some little holly berries. Not holly, mistletoe. Sorry about that. Mistletoe. You could do holly too, couldn't you? In one of my previous videos, I showed you how to do holly. And that was another one of my little cards that goes in the collection. So I'm just doing some white little berries here and there. They're going to show up best on the darker green, so I'm kind of aiming for that, but I don't want it to look too intentional, so I want it to be random. So some are and some aren't, but I'm trying to make sure some hit that the darker green. And because this is paint and it's wet, it does pick up a little bit of the watercolor from underneath. So some of my berries have a little greenish tinge, which is good because they do naturally have that green tint. So where I go over the green, you can see it more. That green's picking up in the paint. Clean it off a little bit. That's why I have that little piece of watercolor paper sitting next to me to test my colors, also to, clean off the tips of my paint markers and whatever you need it for. It's always good to have a little bit of watercolor paper next to you while you're painting for a tester. Tap a little bit of gold in the center of each one. Just incorporate that gold that's in the caps of the ornaments. Oh, missed one. And I'm going to add a little bit of gold on the inside of the fancy part of this ornament there. And maybe the center should be gold as well. A little bit of gold designs on there. A little gold on the bottom. And then I'm curving these lines because those are round. Fancies it up just a little bit. Thought I'd add a few little sprinkles of paint here and there, but I don't want it to get on my ornaments. So I'm putting a paper towel down first and one over my mistletoe, and then I'm doing a few little splatters of paint. Give it a little bit of whimsy. Just fine little splatters. Just to give the effect that there's something more going on behind it somewhere. Nothing specific. And if some gets on the holly, that's cute too. Do a little bit on the holly. Not the holly, the mistletoe. I want to call it holly. And some up here. And I think I'll leave that center pretty empty. I don't want to put too much in there. So now there's not very much paint on my brush, so I'm just going around here and there. I have a little bit more control. It's not dripping. That's where I put the little splatters on there. Come back with a little bit more here. 2 shades of green. And that looks like enough. I think the splatters always add something to a painting. It kind of finishes it to me. And it makes it look nice and painted, hand painted, right? And here's a little bit of yellow, a couple yellow. So the yellow, I'm dipping it in the paint, then I'm dipping the brush in the water, and then I'm just going straight down motion because I'm wanting some bigger splatters, but I want to control where they go. I'm just going straight up and down and dipping it into the water, into my clean water. Just got a couple yellow, almost like there's little twinkles, little twinkle of light or something. And I'm doing it in yellow because it's light, and as you see, I can just wipe it right off and there won't hardly be a mark if I get one that's too big. And then I got some of my bleed proof white. I'm just going to do a few little sparkles. So I'm just doing some little starbursts, like the light has just left a little sparkle there, here and there. And I just put them here and there on my painting. Gotta be careful with the snowflakes. See, I put it off the edge there so you know that it's a sparkle and not another snowflake. Put a couple right here. Just with my 00 brush, really fine brush. I'll zoom it in for you so you can see. They're just very loose, no pattern to them. Put a little dot in the center of them just to kind of anchor them. I gotta be very careful not to lean my hand in my painting or it'll smear, because you can see those little splatters that I put on, that I dipped in the water, they're very wet and they stand right up off that paper until they're dry. So I gotta be very careful not to smear them. They take a long time to dry. Put 2 or 3 on each ornament. And there it is. It's still wet, but you can see what we've done. Nice, happy, festive, pretty little Christmas card. There's the finished one. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you liked it and I hope you painted along with me. If you did like it, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already and press the like button for me. It helps my YouTube channel to get going. Gets more popular that way. So be creative, be cheerful. Peace and love till we meet again. Thank you. Bye-bye.